Hi guys, welcome to episode 23 of Sanj Surati Talks. This is a special episode as it's the first one that's recorded with a live studio audience. This was to coincide with the launch of the book Letting Glow, written by my good friend Phill Webster, recorded at a fantastic bookshop in Richmond Upon-Thames called Books on the Rise. Go check them out. It's a new bookshop that was opened in October 2023, run by a wonderful gentleman named Patrick. For me, this was a really interesting experience because I've done so many podcasts now, but this is the first time I've done one with a live studio audience. And it was really interesting to see how people reacted to the discussion and to connect with the audience straight after the podcast. It was definitely a new experience for me, and it's definitely something that I want to do more of. Phil's a really interesting character. He's someone that I met on set during the filming of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we got quite close, became very good friends. His book, Letting Glow, is a very interesting book about mysticism and also spirituality. I'll put a link in the liner notes as to where you can purchase the book, but it is available throughout the UK and the US at lots of different independent bookstores. So try and get your hands on it at an independent shop if you can, just to support the independent retailers who I'm sure get a lot of value from you shopping with them direct. Just want to thank a few people with regards to the podcast. First of all, I want to thank Patrick at Books on the Rise for loaning us the space and getting in contact with the local book community and getting them down to the event that we did at the shop. Also want to thank Jenny and Jack at Shure for loaning us the equipment for the recording. Also those that turned up. There was lots of friends of Phil that turned up, lots of friends of mine that turned up, and we also made some new friends. So if you listen to this after you came to the show, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate your time. The Sanj Surati website is now up. Yes, that's right. It's a new site. It's all about me. It's going to have all of my listings for all my shows, all the podcasts that are happening, all of the information with regards to some of the music and some of the things I'm doing. I'm really trying to nurture the Sanj Surati community out there. If you want to support me or support this channel or support anything I'm doing, please go to that website, sanjsurati.co, and there's a link on there where you can purchase one of my t-shirts. I think we ship out to all destinations. If we don't ship to you, just send me a message and I'll change that for you. But generally speaking, I think we ship worldwide. All shirts are print on order, which means we're not wasting anything. You go onto the website, you pick your size, you put in all your details, you pay for it, and then it gets printed on demand and shipped out to you wherever you are. So with regards to shows, Track 96, the improvised hip-hop crew that I'm part of, are doing shows all over the UK at the moment. Check out track96.com for more information with regards to all the shows. We're also doing improvised hip-hop workshops as well. I did my first workshop on Sunday at Oxford University for the Oxford Imps community, and that was a load of fun. It was 3 hours of us teaching people how to improvise rap and how to improvise beatboxing. I found it so fulfilling and I can't wait to get back out there. Big shout out to Leo and the team at Oxford Imps because that was so much fun. Lastly, if you're new to the podcast, please follow and like and share. It really helps us out. If you're sharing anything on social media with regards to this podcast, please use the hashtag Sanj Surati Talks, all one word. Anyway, without further ado, this is episode 23 of Sanj Surati Talks featuring the wonderful, wonderful author and friend of mine, Phill Webster.
It's Sanj's show. Just want to get this opened up.
No, you don't. Okay, cool. Do you want to come in? Can you grab a seat? You guys want to get a seat as well?
They're going to go to the pub again in a minute.
Oh, gosh. We're recording this, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, guys, welcome to Sanj Surati Talks, episode 23. I'd love it if you guys would give us a little round of applause. Because this is the first time we've ever done it with a live audience, and it's a special occasion. We've got the wonderful Phill Webster here. Make some noise for Phill Webster. This is the launch of his book, Letting Glow. And just before we kick off with the podcast, I just want to thank a few people. Firstly, I want to thank Books. Is it called Books on the Rise? Is that right? The name of the shop?
Books on the Rise.
Books on the Rise in Richmond. It's a brand new store. It's been here since October. They're trying to develop the community here in Richmond. It's a really funky place. Those of you watching the video can kind of see some of it. We want to thank Patrick and his team for loaning us this space and letting us launch the book here. So please make some noise for Patrick and Books on the Rise. And that's booksontherise.com. Also, just want to thank Shure mics as well, who've loaned us the equipment for this recording. Thank you so much, Jenny and the team. Make some noise for them as well. And also, lastly, can we just thank you guys as well for coming and supporting this? This is quite a bold step for Phill, and I know he's really nervous. I'm a little bit nervous as well. I don't usually get nervous, but we've got such a beautiful crowd here. So make some noise for yourselves. Come on, it's good. Cool. All right. So look, we're here for Sanj Surati Talks, episode 23. We've got Phill here, who's launched his book, Letting Glow. Phill, there's going to be people that are listening that don't know much about you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're about.
All right. Yeah. So we're here to launch my book, Letting Glow, which is released today on, where are we? 28th of April.
Friday the 28th of April.
Yeah. So it's the UK release today, and the worldwide release is on May the 1st. So yeah, still got that to look forward to. And yeah, it's been going good so far. So yeah, I'm based here in Richmond in West London. I lived abroad for 20 years and then came back around 2017. I met you a few years ago on a film set. I started pursuing acting and we kind of went down that road. And then, yeah, the book came about recently through a loss. Like I lost my mum right at the end of the pandemic, and it kind of sent me down this rabbit hole, I suppose, of looking into spiritual, somewhat esoteric experiences. And kind of I just wrote through the process what helped me with the grief, and learned a lot along the way.
Wow. Okay. And just with regards to the book, so it's just come out. Tell us a little bit about the book. What's it about, and what you're trying to communicate with these writings.
So I've been presenting it as demystifying the mystical, right? So we all have these moments of, intuition, yeah? So you can walk into a place and say that you cut the air with a knife, or, we catch feels, or sorry for saying catch feels. Too old to be saying that. But,
I thought you were 21, right?
And, we can't quite put a finger on something and all that. And we've got like all this language that we agree, which is fine, right? Everyone thinks that that's a thing. But as soon as you start talking about sixth sense or any kind of premonition or any of those kind of words, clairaudience, clair, or any of the clairs. There's a few of them. Then people start looking at you like you're nuts, right? So I just kind of wanted to sort of blend that. I mean, is it like just a question of semantics when we're talking about the same thing? And then obviously, like I said, the book goes off in a sort of more of there's a spooky aspect to it as well. There's ghosts in the book. Wow. But it's also about just connecting with your intuition and sort of, there are a lot of meditation exercises in the book. And just sort of connecting with ourselves.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're kind of demystifying mysticism.
That sounds pretty much right, yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. What is mysticism, and what's your perspective on it, and why do you want to demystify it?
So demystified in itself, I'm not trying to debunk it. I'm very pro mysticism. And it's such a broad spectrum that falls under that word. So, I've really gone the spiritual route. I've spoken to a lot of mediums. So I've kind of gone with the life after death route of that word. But of course it touches so many things, like indigenous cultures and all sorts of different aspects,
How did you find it? Like, how did you find yourself in this space? Because it's a very unique space.
Well, yeah, and this is kind of a very unique story, and that's like how the book starts. And it kind of, I'm going to sort of take things down a slightly more depressing route here, but this is how it came about. So you've heard me talk about this before, and a few people here have as well, so my apologies for going through it again. But yeah, so through the pandemic, my mum had been self-isolating at home, right, on the Isle of Wight, and we were in London trying to do the right thing. I would go and see her here and there where I could, when, restrictions were lifted and stuff like that. But essentially, I really didn't see much of her for like a whole year. And she was like 76. She had various age-related health problems, but I thought she was going to be around for a while, and we would FaceTime every day. So at the start of 2021, we had probably like a third or fourth conversation of the day on FaceTime. Except in the evening when she answered the phone, there was somebody standing beside her. And I was like, okay, well, who's that? There's not supposed to be anyone there, right? We were in the middle of a lockdown. She was on the Isle of Wight. I pretty much knew everybody that's, immediate neighbors and stuff like that. We got no other family down there.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, who's this guy? I was shocked. And she was like, who's what? And I was like, well, who's the guy? And she had no idea what I was talking about. So I just kind of dismissed it. And after asking her a few more times, and then, we spoke for like another 30, 45 minutes or something like that. And I thought, well, I guess I was mistaken. But yeah, I don't know why I dismissed it so easily, because I definitely saw the guy, like enough that I could describe his features and what have you.
Wow.
And then the next morning I got the call that she'd passed, so God. It kind of,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. But it took on a different meaning. I mean, it wasn't something that I jumped on immediately, but it just kind of mulled over in the back of my head. Like, okay, well, what was that? I definitely saw someone. And why did I dismiss it so easily? And then actually when we met on a film set, right?
Yep. Doctor Strange.
in the
multiverse of madness, which is kind of apt for this kind of story.
But, it was, we had like a good 4 months on that film set, right? And I think I was just kind of like, I had my head down through the whole thing, or through most of it, and just was kind of processing everything. And I remember talking to somebody on that and telling her this experience. And she was like, well, have you ever asked for a sign, like from your mum? Like, assuming that we're talking about ghosts here, right? The person was there to let me know that my mum was leaving, right?
At that time, how did you feel about the notion of looking for a sign?
Well, it just hadn't crossed my mind. Like I said, this thing had just sort of been at the back of my mind for a long time. And it started getting me thinking about other experiences that I'd had in the past, which again, hadn't made much sense, that I just like dismissed, because it was like, okay, well, what do I do with that? It's not a practical thing that sort of applies to anything, right? There's just been these odd moments here and there. And like they would come up every few years, and I'll be like, okay, cool, weird, but all right. And I'll move on with life. But this one obviously carried a lot of weight with it. So I did ask for a sign, and then started getting them, like, and of course they're sort of open to opinion, and, you can argue that if you start looking for signs, then you're going to find them, right? But I've had so many experiences since then. And then that kind of led me to this whole, like I said, sort of journey into talking with mediums, and then seeing how they work, and then just seeing some amazing things, that I'm like, okay, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this stuff's real.
Wow.
And then exploring it myself and learning about it myself. And yeah.
So talk to us about that realism, because you obviously explored that over the last few years since your
2 years, yeah.
Since your mother's passed, and you've got this book now that touches on that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about the realism of that mediumship.
Well, I mean, the book's just documenting the journey. I sort of mulled this stuff over for some time. I walked into a spiritualist church one night. They're around. I'd never really sort of taken any notice of them before. And I was really skeptical about it. I put all my social media accounts to private. I was thinking I don't want anyone sort of looking into this and knowing what I'm going there for or anything like that. So I went along to this thing and I had like a healthy dose of skepticism about it, even though obviously I was hoping to hear from my mum, if that was going to be a thing. And just watched this lady work around the small church that was there, and just watched her get thing after thing right. She was talking to people that they were confirming everything she was saying.
Right, okay.
And then she eventually got to me, and the stuff she said was just completely on point. Yeah, there was no way that she would have known anything about that.
That's amazing. So do you feel now that you're closer to her, to your mother?
Yeah, I mean, it changed everything, to be honest, right? It's still sort of somehow difficult to, because we get caught up in the practical stuff every day, and even now, even though I'm 100% with this, it still takes us a little bit of adjusting and thinking to be like, yeah, no, this is running alongside us, right? This is running alongside everything that we're doing all the time.
Yep.
We just don't bother taking any notice of it. But yeah, so definitely it's, I still miss my mum, and anyone that's lost anyone that's really close to them knows that, it's life changing. I still wish she was here, but yeah, I 100% believe that she's still around as everybody else is. Yeah.
Amazing. So, this has obviously been like a magical moment in your life with regards to this enlightenment that you're gaining over the last couple of years. But I remember you telling me before you actually noticed these things way before that happened. I remember when you were in Finland, you had an experience and you met up with someone who told you, basically kind of helped you understand this feeling that you're having. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so yeah, there's been a few things like over the years. So I had this is going to sort of sound way out there now, but I had
we're all drunk. It's all good. Let's bring it on. It's all good.
Yeah, so a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know how to sort of approach this. Just like a sort of sense all of a sudden that linear time made no sense. I woke up one morning, I was a little bit hungover. Just to put this in context, so the life I was leading at the time, I was like running bars and clubs, right? So it was like a very hedonistic sort of lifestyle, right?
And that was in Finland?
Yeah, this is in Helsinki. And I'd kind of been doing that for a while, and you know, I was working at nights and sort of surrounded by drunk people all the time. And I was thinking that this was normal life, but really I was kind of living on like the fringes of normal life, right? Everyone's just drinking constantly. You start drinking at 5 a.m. and it turns into an after party and you're sleeping all day. And this was sort of going on for years. Anyway, I was very much caught up in a very sort of self-indulgent lifestyle. I wasn't really thinking of anything beyond what I was considering fun at the time, right? And my sort of scope was very limited. And anyway, woke up one morning and just kind of had this shift of awareness that we've only got this moment of now, right? And it wasn't like a new thought. It wasn't like anything that I hadn't thought before, but something shifted like physically. And all of a sudden, nothing made sense. I was like, linear time just doesn't make sense. We haven't got anything but this moment of now, and everything else is just something that we think about that's coming up in the future, or something that's happened in the past, or we're thinking about something distracts us. I'm thinking about him and he reminds me of something else. And you know what I mean? We just constantly got these thoughts going through our head, right? And all that suddenly fell away, and it was just like now, all the time. And it was almost as though I'd stepped out, and it was like this awareness that I was watching my own thoughts.
Wow.
Which is something that you can get to through meditation. And a lot of people strive to get this, but at the moment it was suddenly like I was thrust in it, and it just terrified me. And I literally thought that I was going nuts. Right. And then it just didn't stop. And it went up for a couple of weeks. I could barely function. I couldn't go to work. I was trying to explain to people what I was going through. People were just like, okay, yeah, no. I could see them sort of glaze over like these lot are at the moment.
And thought you're mad.
Basically, yeah, you know, and I thought I was. And you know, I don't, again, not wanting to go down a sort of dark route, but it did get to a point after a few months that I was like, okay, if this is the way that my brain's going to work now, then I don't really get this anymore, right? I started having those thoughts. I went to a couple of doctors. They used the word psychosis, which like scared the crap out of me.
How old were you?
This is about 10 years ago, so mid-30s.
Okay.
I'm being generous, late 30s. Yeah, so, and then anyway, so it sort of went on like this, and eventually I found a guy, a psychiatrist who was also a hypnotist, which interested me. I thought, okay, somebody could just make this go away.
Yeah.
And he explained to me that he couldn't just make it go away, but he started telling me that he didn't think I was going nuts. He said he thought that I was having what was an awakening, which I hadn't. It was a term that I hadn't experienced before. And he was, he said, no, you know, he said, you're fine. You're just experiencing real life, right? At a deeper level than most people do. And then he started using words like mystic and stuff like that, which I felt very awkward about. I felt almost embarrassed for him when he said that. I was like, hey, can we just make this go away? Whatever this is, you know, I just want to get back to the herd. I want to get back to normal life. And he sent me through like a couple of different meditation exercises that in hindsight are very just basic grounding meditation exercises. But at the time they were just a lifeline, you know, they really just brought me back again.
Wow.
And sort of, you know, just got me to sort of integrate again with society, because I genuinely felt that I was just out in the stratosphere somewhere. So in hindsight, looking back on it, what I thought was going nuts. And then this is something that I've learned about when researching the book. You know, these kind of things happen all the time to people. And I'm not dismissing mental illness. You know, it's definitely a thing, and definitely people need doctors, and medication can be involved and stuff like that. But I've learned many stories about people going through this and then just looking at it from this perspective rather than the medical perspective, and bringing themselves out of it.
Wow.
And also, just to harp on about this a little bit more, when you look back at indigenous cultures, there's a lot of stories about this, that would be somebody that would go through that would be the medicine person of like of a group, you know, back in thousands of years ago, and would be considered a shaman. Essentially, I'm not saying I'm a self-professed,
You look like a shaman.
but yeah, so it was interesting, and I mean, and I'm fine. I'm not nuts.
No, absolutely. So that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess did you use those techniques through that period up until your mom sadly passed?
The meditation.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I just kind of used it to get myself out of that what I thought was a hole at the time. I wasn't looking at it as a mystical experience. I was looking at it like, okay, I'm losing my mind, but these meditation techniques definitely worked, and gradually, a year, it was probably like a year, I kind of sort of returned to normal.
And so now coming to today with regards to this story, how has that enlightenment into mysticism affected you, writing this piece?
Well, again, it was like, I kind of got myself back on track, what I thought was back on track then. And then I just carried on with, I think a positive thing that came from that as simple as it sounds, people talk about connecting with the moment of now, like Eckhart Tolle's wrote a book about it. I've never read that book actually. But like I say, people strive for this experience, and it felt like I could tap into it a lot easier. Like I could really just be here now. And going through the whole thinking I was going nuts thing really put things in perspective of what was important, and then I moved back to the UK with Laura, wherever she is, and started pursuing acting. I was just like thinking, what, I'm just doing things I don't want to do. I'm just going to actually do what I want to do. So that it was very beneficial in that point, but I didn't really associate it with this word that we keep using, this mysticism.
Yeah.
Right. But again, when we get to my mum passing and then whatever happened that night with this appearance of somebody on the video call made me look back at that. And then there are other instances as well. But yeah, I feel like I'm, getting lost in this.
No, totally. And it's fine to get lost in it. It's a very interesting story. And I know since you've written this book and since you've driven, since you've started to explore this new world, lots of people have contacted you to connect because they feel that, what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, the book's only just come out officially today, but I've had a few people contact me that received it like last week or something like that. And one person said that she pretty much described the same experience that I just talked about and was like, okay, I've never heard anybody explain that like that before. And that was exactly what she went through. And hopefully that's, going to help people that are going through anything like that.
I'm sure it will. So let's talk about a different aspect of your life. Let's talk about, you guys know that Phill is an A-list actor within Richmond.
Yeah, that's a definite shift.
Let's talk about your acting experience because
I use the word actor very loosely when describing myself.
But you've worked with some big names, obviously Sylvester Stallone.
Was
Jason Statham, Sanj Surati.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Tell us about you as an actor and how that shaped you.
I don't know what everyone's laughing at. Yeah,
I don't think everyone's laughing. I'm laughing on the inside. No, go.
Well, I've got to be honest. It's kind of taken a back seat for me now. Like, no disrespect to that industry or anything like that, but I feel that I've met some amazing people on film sets. I've met you there. I've made some friends for life, right? And had some wonderful experiences. But I feel that there is a lot of, obviously, I'm not telling anything to anyone that they don't know already, but there is a lot of egos there are a lot of egos on set, I should say.
It's interesting.
But that feels like something I want to move away from at this point.
I'm only saying it's interesting because today Phill asked me what shoes he should wear and he sent me a picture of two pairs.
That's not ego. That's not ego. But
we'll cut that out of the but I'm assuming just the skill set that you've learned from being an actor has had an impact on you as a person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, again, it sort of stems from that thing I was talking about earlier and just sort of pursuing what I thought I actually wanted to do if I was going to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been some amazing experiences, like in a good few years of working steadily, paying. I mean, I was setting the bar that if I could pay the rent with it, that was fine by me. I wasn't under any illusions about setting Hollywood on fire in my mid-40s, right? So, I was like, okay, if I can pay the rent, great.
Has your exploration into acting helped you with regards to this book at all, or these teachings, these learnings?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's definitely opened me up to things that I hadn't been, drama school and stuff like that. They get you doing some weird stuff. Obviously, you get presented with these people. One day you're sitting around in your underwear at home, and then the next day you're like saying hi to Tom Cruise or something, right?
Wow. Have you worked to Tom Cruise?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Although I did accidentally walk onto the Mission Impossible set by mistake one day when we were filming Doctor Strange. So it's not that interesting. I didn't get past the security guard. But I felt like it was a bit unfair because we were on the movie set right next to it doing Doctor Strange. So it's like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
But I'd taken a wrong turn. That was it.
Let's talk about Doctor Strange.
Sure.
Because it was a fun experience. We were on it for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about some of your favourite memories from working on Doctor Strange.
Well, it was one of the worst periods of my life. Like I gotta say, the first 2 months, I'd literally, my mum had passed away.
I'm so sorry.
My mum had passed away 2 days before I started work on it.
But we met Bruce Campbell.
We did meet Bruce Campbell. But I wanted to just get on with it. I've been waiting to work on it. It was a lot of work. It was 4 months work essentially, right? And we'd been waiting for it for months in advance. And obviously it was, amid COVID and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep busy and just get on with this. But yeah, for the first month, I don't think I spoke to anyone apart from you, maybe.
Yeah.
And really kept my head down.
I remember when we met, and I think it was like this, it was the first day we were on the bus. So when you're on a film set, you kind of in this holding area, and then they put you on this bus and it takes you to the set.
They were shuffling us around.
And I remember you were sitting there and you were very pensive in thought, and you were very open. Like, I don't think anyone on that bus really knew you or known you that much. I think Mick.
Don't know anyone. Oh yeah, Mick maybe. Yeah.
And you were very open about this loss that you were going through. And I remember it shocked me because it was very raw, because it happened like
it was within a week or something like that.
Oh gosh. And I've seen you change over the last few years. You changed dramatically from that moment when I first met you to where you are now.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you as well.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, just talk to us about that. Like, was working on a film during that moment of grief helpful?
I mean, to be honest, so we were doing that one scene. Just to say to everyone, we were there was a team of us, right, and we were working as warriors on this big sort of action scene.
We're still warriors.
Yeah. And I remember Benedict Cumberbatch came on set, and I was a couple of feet away from him, completely didn't take any notice of me at all, of course. But, he was in his whole superhero regalia, and ordinarily I would have been quite starstruck by that. But with my head space at the time, I was like, oh, that's him, and we sort of just went through the motions of doing that scene. And we really did go through the motions of doing that, because we literally did the same thing every day for 4 months.
Yeah.
We're like, same spot, same actions, same. Yeah. But anyway, but it was good. It was good.
Yeah. I mean, 20 minutes of that film was filmed over like 4 months, basically.
Yeah. And also when you look that up, they claim that they wasn't filming then. If you look at the Wikipedia of it, they're like, no. It was all locked down. Nobody was filming nothing.
Do you remember the catering?
The catering was pretty good.
I thought it was awful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was awful.
All right.
Those boxes used to get. Sorry, I know catering's hard on a film set.
All right, but anyway.
Let's go back to the books. I feel like we're not going anywhere with this story, are we? So I guess one reason why I was asking you about that, because obviously you were dealing with loss. How has this form of expression, this book, helped you deal with the loss of your mother? Yeah, so I mean, I took it very hard. It's been like a really rough. The first 2 years were really difficult, I have to say. I mean, it's a tough one because our parents get older, and we know that's on the horizon, right? We're most of us have probably got to go through it at some point. And one thing that I've been saying a lot is when you lose a parent, you lose the one true witness to your life, right? It's the person that's been there since day one, that knows more about you than you know yourself, right? They remember more things than you remember of your own life. So yeah, it's difficult. It's like stepping into an alternate universe, talking to Doctor Strange and what have you. But it really is. It's like, for me, like the world definitely lost its shine a little bit. And even though I'm pushing 50, it was like that last bit of childhood really left at that point. I didn't realize it was still around, but It was like, oh no, that's gone now properly. And it's been really hard, I have to say. And, just somebody that you sort of turn to regularly. And of course, people have different relationships with their parents. Not everyone's got great ones and what have that. And my mum would drive me nuts for plenty of times. But so through writing the book, and then, there's obviously the subject matter is about life after death, amongst other things.
So yeah, it was cathartic. Is that the right word to sort of pour it out there? And I'm sure it helped personally with the grieving process. And then hopefully, you know, it will help somebody else with it as well.
Yeah, well, the book's doing well, right? It's in like the top. It's like bestsellers of spiritual books on the Amazon.
Yeah, they've got a lot of categories on there, but yeah, it's been doing really well for the last month. It's been essentially in the top 10 of its category, and then it was on a bestsellers list today. So
that's amazing, and congratulations! I mean, it takes a lot of work to actually fulfill your like creative potential with something like music, film, a book. So like, well done. I think we should all give Phill a round of applause for that. So we'll cut two more questions before we
wrap things up.
Wind it up. And guys, thanks so much for your patience on this. The first one. So this is something I always ask people on the podcast.
Yeah.
What advice would you have given yourself 20 years ago before you worked in this industry as a writer?
I would have said just to have got on with it back then already. I always felt like I had a book in me, but I was always thinking it was going to be fiction or something like that. Every now and again, I'd start writing something and then just get bored of it or lose interest in the process or the subject, or other stuff would take over and I wouldn't do it. So yeah, I mean, I wrote this. This was a completely different thing because it felt like it had to come out, you know. So I was just
you
like
did
pouring
turn this around really quickly. I remember.
Yeah, it probably took me, I can't even remember, to be honest, like 8 months or so, something like that. And then the publishing process was another year. So yeah, it's been quite a long time coming. And then I wrote another one, but I guess that's another conversation for another time.
Another podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Guys, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to get in
suddenly
contact?
got a website, philwebster.com. That's Phill with 2 L's. And then I'm most active on Instagram.
Awesome. Guys, let's give Phill another round of applause. Cool. Thank you so much for listening to this. This is the first time we've had a live audience on the Sanj Surati Talks podcast. So I really appreciate your time. Just want to do some more thank yous again. Just want to thank the team that got involved in putting this on, helping us out with this. So obviously Patrick and the team on Books on the Rise.
Books on the Rise.
Yeah, booksontherise.com. Make sure you check them out. Again, new bookstore in Richmond. It's only been here since October. They're really trying to stir the pot with regards to the kind of community here, with regards to creativity. Also want to thank Jenny and the team at Shure for loaning us this equipment. Please make some noise for them. And guys, make some noise for yourselves as well. Come on. Woo! Those of you listening, if you're sharing, make sure you like, subscribe, share the hashtag Sanj Surati Talks, all one word. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please be good.